All right, so welcome to the Grimm Times podcast. This is our first ever episode. I'm pretty excited to get this one underway. I am Jeff Jarman, the host, and my co-host, Skylar Sylvie. Go ahead and say hi, Skylar.
Hello.
All right, so here we go. Well, just to get everyone up to speed, what we're mainly going to be covering with this podcast is anything from paranormal topics to conspiracies to video games, news
Porn.
items. What's that?
Porn.
Not that. But news items and different things that are relevant to the current times. Right now, something that is especially relevant is the Zimmerman case, the Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman case. I don't even remember the first name of Zimmerman.
I don't even care. I think the whole thing's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, it really was overblown. But yeah, we wanted to cover that. I mean, as most people may know by now, I'm sure they do. Zimmerman got off free pretty much. He walked. And the whole story behind the deal, basically, just to catch everyone up to speed, is this Trayvon Martin kid, young teenage black guy, 17 years old, I think. He was walking through a neighborhood late at night. I think it was 11 p.m., something like that. I don't know. It might be better for you just look up online what happened if you don't know. But he was
in a hoodie.
Yeah, he was wearing a hood on his head in Florida, which is kind of weird in itself. That's kind of like trying to hide your face and, suspicious looking. But anyway, he went behind a gated community. I don't know if he was like taking a shortcut home or what he was doing back there. But this is in a neighborhood that had a lot of break-ins in the recent times. And so this neighborhood watch guy, who isn't even from the area, Zimmerman, he was out that night. And he called 911 or whatever, called the police, and reported this suspicious-looking kid. And the police did tell him not to pursue the kid, but he got out of the car and he went and confronted this kid. And so basically what happened is there was a fight or something. Zimmerman had 2 lacerations on the back side of his head. He was bleeding from the nose when the police found him, and the back of his jacket was wet with grass stains, like he had been on the ground. And Zimmerman had, Trayvon Martin anyway, he had no injuries whatsoever except for a gunshot wound. And
he died of lead poisoning.
Yeah, so that was what killed him. And then they went to court and all that stuff, and it was a long trial. I guess all the jurors were white. I don't know if that was, on purpose or how that whole deal worked out. But, Skylar, I'll let you go ahead and give your thoughts on this whole verdict and everything first. The whole situation, really.
Well, first off, the whole thing with the jurors being white is partially irrelevant because Zimmerman was not white. He was like Mexican or something.
Yeah, he was. I think he was half and half.
But then, secondly, to say this, talk about relevant topics, this being probably one of the more irrelevant topics in the sense that, if you go back in time, just before that, we were all talking about that one guy, which I can't remember his name. It was Snowden. We were all talking about Snowden and how this man was working for the government, like NSA, and he released information saying, basically proving the point that the government was watching people's phones and everything, and their Facebook and crap like that. And that was going on and on and on and on and on. He brought it up, and the government didn't go, that is BS. No, they did one better. They justified it and said, yep, terrorism. Contradict all your freedom with freaking terrorism, And and then some Mexican shoots a African American kid. So the whole thing gets.
Yeah, that was pretty disappointing. I mean, and plus the fact that it got so much major media coverage. I mean, stuff like this happens all the time, and it gets no real recognition at all. There was actually a post on Facebook a while back. It was about some girl named Autumn, I think, and she was a little white girl. I don't know if she was 14 years old, maybe 14 or 16. I'm not sure. But
I think it was 14.
Yeah, and she was confronted by 2 African American teenagers. They were brothers, and some sort of conflict over like bicycle parts. And the girl didn't want to give up her bike for parts or something like that. And these two boys murdered her and stuffed her body in a trash can. And
Yeah.
you don't see anybody with like Justice for Autumn shirts, or you don't see any rallies out there for it. You don't see any of that stuff because it didn't get any coverage at all. And if it had been two white boys and a black girl, then it would have been considered a hate crime.
Yep. And it's kind of ironic, we live in a, I don't know, it's in my opinion, the whole race thing is long since kind of irrelevant. You got all these African American people complaining over something that happened like 150 years ago to this day, that had nothing to do with them specifically, but their forefathers from however, 150 years ago that enslaved themselves for the white man. And then now the white man's being victimized for that. And now we're forever in penance for, something like that. We split and divide each other over like race. What I don't understand is why can't it just be, there's no white, no black, no Mexican, no gay, no straight, no Christian, no atheist. It's all just considered under one thing, which is American. Seriously, make life really simple.
The whole
there's no,
get Asia and consider us all American.
Yeah, there's no division. It's just okay. It's like this guy, is treated exactly the same as the guy. The black man is treated completely the same as the homo guy or homosexual guy next to him. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no like, oh my God, this black guy killed this white girl. It's more on the lines of, hey, this guy killed this girl, or Zimmerman killed this guy, Martin. Instead of, oh, this Mexican guy just, went completely out of his way to shoot this kid, I think there was something along the lines of like he was suspected of stealing chips or something, and it's like, oh, cool, he steals chips, shoot him in the head, and so I mean, that's how it's portrayed as it happening. Zimmerman was the bad guy throughout the whole thing. And any thought to the contrary on the news was complete insanity. And the fact of the matter is, it is insanity to sit there and focus on one particular perspective of a situation that you weren't even personally there to witness to begin with. Yes, it was probably stupid of the guy to pursue the guy after the cops specifically told him not to, but on the other side of the coin, I really don't care. The fact is that, again, as you said, this happens continuously, on and on and on, and yet they throw a fit over one particular incident, which just comes off as nothing more than a political propaganda whitewash to cover up everything else that's going in the background. I mean, let's not forget about the drones that are circling American soil, or the 4 Americans that were specifically targeted and killed by American drones in a foreign country by our own president.
I want to move on to that subject here in a minute. Let's wrap up the Zimmerman case real quick, and then we'll actually move on to, like you said, what is important. My feelings on the Zimmerman thing. The kid was definitely a punk kid. I mean, he looked like one. He was in trouble at school all the time. But the kid should not have...
And he stole chips.
Yeah, and the kid should not have died. That's the bottom line. He shouldn't have died. But he most likely started the fight, is what it looks like, because Zimmerman took all the damage. It looks like he was on the losing end and getting beat up by this kid. But, I mean, honestly, do you think if this kid had won the fight and he hadn't been shot, do you think that beating up a white guy would have made him a better person down the line? I don't think so. Most likely he would just be like, have this chip on his shoulder and be like, yeah, I beat this guy's butt who tried to mess with me, and I'll do it again to anybody else who messes with me. I can do whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't have been shot, he shouldn't have died, but he also shouldn't be able to just beat up some dude and walk away, however it happened. But, I mean, in the end, Zimmerman walked. He's probably going to have something else happen to him. I don't think he's going to live to see 50, honestly, with all the controversy and people out there.
Well, if he would have went to prison, he would just turn into somebody's bitch.
Most likely.
or stabbed with a pencil.
Yeah, he most likely would die in prison, or he might die out here on the streets. Who knows? But I mean, in the grand scope of things, it's just another case.
1 million people in Africa were butchered because they were Christian by Muslim extremist Africans in 3 days' time, and very few of them were killed with guns.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear about that. Now, technically, I don't really care because that's Africa, and that has nothing to do with here.
Africa is almost a whole separate world, really.
Right, I know, but it's just basically the overall point is we go over here and we complain about all this stuff, that has no relevance to anything. I mean, of course they're bad and whatever, and I'm not trying to suggest that because Africa's stuff is worse, this isn't bad at all. Personally, I think this should be freaking Shangri-La if it was made to be, But the problem here is, unlike in Africa, to a degree, is here they're trying to divide everything. It's a natural human instinct to go, okay, this guy's gay, this guy's straight, this guy's Christian, this guy's Muslim, this guy's black, this guy's Chinese. We have this thing with separating and filing and labeling every single solitary thing. I mean, there's like several different versions of bipolar disorder. So they sit there and they'll list every little tiny itty-bitty little thing and some itty-bitty little, file somewhere. And in the end, it's divide and conquer. United we stand, divided we fall, blah, 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 blah. So as long as we're fighting amongst ourselves, we'll never see what's going on in the background, like drones.
Yeah, exactly. This is pretty much the mass media took over this thing, and it's I think really it's one of those stories that's meant to divide people. People are going to disagree on it. It's meant to cause controversy. It's supposed to, make everybody fight amongst themselves. Meanwhile, there's, like Serge Tankian is always talking about, there's the Armenian genocide that's happening right now, and we pretty much pay no attention to that whatsoever.
Well, it's not just that. Politics are involved. The government doesn't want to acknowledge it because we'll lose the ally of Turkey. Okay, I'm sorry. I really don't care about any of our allies. I consider it kind of completely irrelevant, especially Turkey. It's just the fact that, it's like, how hard would it be for a president to go up on the podium and say, oh, by the way, the Turks killed 1 million, Armenians. Ta-da! It's recognized, problem solved, screw Turkey. They can go, yeah, so what? Star Wars was shot in Turkey, okay? And, that would be kind of depressing. It's like probably the only bad point. But
yeah.
realistically, in the government's opinion, the reason they don't want to lose Turkey is because it's a valuable point to conquer the rest of the Middle East. It would be so much more difficult to go all the way around past India, to go into other freaking countries, go through other freaking countries to get to whatever parts of the Middle East they're wanting to get to. So Turkey is a valuable little pivot to get to other places. And that's one of the reasons they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And of course, in my opinion, I think all troops should be brought back, all jobs that are outsourced should be brought back, and our country should be completely America-centric, where basically, 10 million people died in China. Well, then all that means to us is 10 million people died in China.
Yeah.
I don't believe in exporting to assist these other countries, because every time we assist somebody with anything, it's never just out of the kindness of our country's heart. It's out of, well, what do we get out of it?
Yeah, and that's how the whole world is. I mean, everybody's going to look out for themselves in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We could go really broad with that topic. I mean, I think, bottom line, we just need to focus on the important things. I mean, every human life is important. None are,
I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying that, nobody should feel bad about it.
There's a lot that we could delve into with that whole subject. I mean, between, gun rights and the NRA and all these different national security measures that they could take in the future and all this stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
or the freaking people in the Middle East, I think it's Saudi Arabia, pretty certain, or Iran, one of the two. It's like, you can't have beer because it's against the Quran.
Well, that's definitely not a separation of church and state. I mean, we're probably the only country that really does have that.
Oh yeah, we have that. Right. We have that about as much as, I have a vagina.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true too. I mean, I always wonder about that sort of thing, like the president being sworn in on the Bible. I definitely think it's a good thing, just from my own personal beliefs, but I don't see
Okay.
how that's a separation of church and
Well,
state.
here's a better question. Okay, the guy who puts, what is it? He puts his left hand on the Bible, raises his right hand. Is that it?
I think so.
What if he puts his right hand on the Bible, raises his left hand? Or what if he turns the Bible upside down and puts his left hand on the Bible or right hand on the Bible and holds his left hand? Or what if they rip pages out of it, turn the Bible upside down, put their left hand on the Bible or right hand on the Bible and raise the left hand? Is God really going to care if they're assuming there was one? I mean, that's the whole point. Is he really that particular? You must put your hand on the Bible in this specific manner and raise this specific hand in order to be sworn in as a presidency that's in direct contradiction of its own freaking constitution and the act of just simply, swearing on the Bible to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if it. I don't know who came up with that whole idea of swearing in like that. I don't know if it's even a good thing, really, in God's eyes, to swear on the Bible, but that's how they do it. I don't even know when they started doing that. Did George Washington do that when he first became president?
Hell, I don't know. I wasn't there.
I haven't really brushed up on my history lately, but
I know that all our forefathers are basically worshipped, and they were all slave owners, and then they grew pot or hemp or whatever you want to call it.
yeah. Well, I mean, they wanted Washington to become king.
Supposedly, and whatever.
Well, yeah, that's what we were taught in school. Who knows if that's actually correct? But I mean,
It's like, here's what I want to do: is swear in as president. Okay, I want to put my right hand on my nuts and pee in a shoe.
so you basically you're putting in your bid to become president right now.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm basically trying to say, I make probably the worst president, in the sense that I am completely unqualified, and I was born in America, so I must be disqualified automatically because of recent events. Totally different topic of discussion.
Yeah.
Anyway, but besides that, okay, all my opinions on it are completely in contrast to pretty much everybody that runs for president ever. I secondly am not a multi freaking millionaire elitist. Lunatic with the sole obsession of power, and most importantly, two most important things: I'm not married, nor will I ever be. And as far as a White House dog, I wouldn't have one. I'd have a White House cat. Cats are better.
All right. Well, on that note, we got to start wrapping it up here. Thank you for listening to the whole podcast. If you are hearing this, that means you did listen to the whole podcast. So thank you for that. And we'll have the next episode coming up shortly. I mean, I hope to do these weekly. I think we could put one out every week. I don't see any problem with that.
Toga parties.
I don't know about that one.
I do. Even like a random toga party song in the background.
Oh yeah. But all right. Well, this is the end of the first Grimm Times podcast. Go ahead and check out the Facebook and all that stuff, and check out our personal pages too, Jeff Jarman and Skylar Sylvie. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, go away.
And the deal, basically, just to catch everyone up to speed, is this Trayvon Martin kid, young teenage black guy, 17 years old, I think. He was walking through a neighborhood late at night. I think it was 11 p.m., something like that. I don't know. It might be better for you just look up online what happened if you don't know. But he was
in a hoodie.
Yeah, he was wearing a hood on his head in Florida, which is kind of weird in itself. That's kind of like trying to hide your face and, suspicious looking. But anyway, he went behind a gated community. I don't know if he was like taking a shortcut home or what he was doing back there. But this is in a neighborhood that had a lot of break-ins in the recent times. And so this neighborhood watch guy, who isn't even from the area, Zimmerman, he was out that night, and he called 911 or whatever, called the police, and reported this suspicious-looking kid. And the police did tell him not to pursue the kid, but he got out of the car and he went and confronted this kid. And so basically what happened is there was a fight or something. Zimmerman had 2 lacerations on the backside of his head. All right, so welcome to the Grimm Times podcast. This is our first ever episode. I'm pretty excited to get this one underway. I am Jeff Jarman, the host, and my co-host, Skylar Sylvie. Go ahead and say hi, Skylar.
Hello.
All right, so here we go. Well, just to get everyone up to speed, what we're mainly going to be covering with this podcast is anything from paranormal topics to conspiracies to video games, news
Porn.
items. What's that?
Porn.
Not that. But news items and different things that are relevant to the current times. Right now, something that is especially relevant is the Zimmerman case, the Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman case. I don't even remember the first name of Zimmerman.
I don't even care. I think the whole thing's fully irrelevant.
Yeah, it really was overblown. But yeah, we wanted to cover that. I mean, as most people may know by now, I'm sure they do, Zimmerman got off free pretty much. He walked, and the whole story behind he was bleeding from the nose when the police found him, and the back of his jacket was wet with grass stains, like he had been on the ground. And Zimmerman had, Trayvon Martin anyway, he had no injuries whatsoever except for a gunshot wound. And
he died of lead poisoning.
Yeah, so that was what killed him. And then they went to court and all that stuff, and it was a long trial. I guess all the jurors were white. I don't know if that was, on purpose or how that whole deal worked out. But, Skylar, I'll let you go ahead and give your thoughts